That's not what happened in the Agile space. In theory, he was the guy the programmer would go to teach him about the domain. He'd tell me about the domain. And if I had a question, I'd get the answer. But somehow in Agile space, we put these guys called BAs, and what the BA did was he talked to the real customer who has a real knowledge, because they don't actually have knowledge themselves. And they became a translator for what the customer says. And basically, they wrote stories. So they talked to the customer, write a story, give it to the programmer. This programmer needs just stories to work by. And if we had a question, they turn around and ask that guy, he'd give me the answer and tell me what it is. Gee, that sounds really useful. And you sort of say, well, why don't I just talk to the guy over here? Why do I need you in the middle? Oh, well, it's too complicated for you. You wouldn't understand. You wouldn't understand what an online newspaper is. It's like publishing. I mean, like text and pictures? Yeah, like text and pictures. I think I understand that. Oh, it's really complicated. You say, gee, have you ever looked at Node? Or Closure? Or you think your world's more complicated than my world? You think I cannot understand those concepts? Let me trade you for jobs one to one. I bet you understand yours way before you understand my world. Most business domains are not that complicated. Now, if you're a particle physicist, okay, you got it. Don't understand that stuff. But short of a few disciplines like that, most businesses are basically the same type of business that have been around for 100 years. They're not that complicated. So that's not really the reason. We can't talk. We don't know how to talk to people. It's like, regular customer. I get afraid of customers. I'm like, actually, we do a pretty good job of talking. The other thing is, well, we kind of like social skills. We dress funny. We have funny hair. You know, but to some degree, we're expected to look different now. You know, that day is past. So to some degree, the reason for him being there is really not existing anymore. And so we kind of just faded them out and just had those conversations directly. So their role, particularly just as a translator between two people, and with these excuses, doesn't exist. Now, there are a lot of Agile shops that will sell you the yellow guys. They will sell them in quantities and convince you it's a good idea because you believe that because it existed in waterfall. And they make a lot of money off these guys. But in general, they only slow down the processes. All right, so we got rid of the BAs. How about these manager roles? Well, iteration manager and project manager. Iteration manager is the idea that somebody is running the team, making sure the iterations are smooth. Project manager is the guy working out the big things. Well, the real history behind the iteration manager is there's a guy in ThoughtWorks named Josh McKenzie. And once upon a time, when ThoughtWorks was just starting Agile processes, they went into a customer and said, we need to put a team in place. We're going to run this Agile thing. And we need to put a project manager in place, and we need some developers. Of course, we need BAs and QAs and all these other roles. And the customer says, whoa, 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 I have my own project manager. You don't need a project manager. So Josh thought about that for a minute and says, oh, no, you don't understand. He's not a project manager. He's an iteration manager. It was a way to put our own project managers into the thing, so we called him something else. And people believed it. Now you're looking at career paths. That's a career path. You go from like, one of these developers to a business analyst up to an iteration manager. You get promoted down to a project manager. It's actually part of the official career path. It's all fiction. They do the same sort of thing. So that was not a real job, it turns out. It was kind of one made up by ThoughtWorks. All right, so back to project manager. All right, so what's the job of a manager? And I did an exercise with ThoughtWorks right before I left, them a few years ago, about what does a project manager really do? And they just kind of name the things he actually does, the roles he actually plays. Because manager is a role that doesn't really exist. And he said, well, first of all, he's a clerk. Even Kent Beck said there's a need to record stories. There's a need to track when stories start and stories finish. But he called it a clerk. Because that's basically what it is. It's not supposed to take a lot of time. It's just somebody who's sort of writing these things down as they go. So that's the role they play. In theory, they're also leaders. They're supposed to be the rah-rah guys, the team is rallied around something and the like. Ambassador. It's kind of one of my favorite roles. These are the guys that can go out and represent the team with other parties. Whether it's a customer or corresponding development teams. The ambassador role. There's a company in Berlin, Six Wonderkinder, they call it a speaker. Each team has a speaker. And you kind of like that concept. This guy doesn't tell the team, doesn't speak for the team. He speaks for the team. He represents the team the same way an ambassador represents their country. But the ambassador doesn't make the laws and the rules for the country. He represents them. He brings the ideas back to the other thing and talks to the rest of the group to see what the right answer is. But he's not out there making commitments for you. He's not authorized for that. And so that's a very nice label for what they should be doing. You're also expected to be the coach and the mentor of the team themselves. Now, if you're a manager, you're probably a good coach or mentor for somebody who wants to be a manager. But you're probably not the best coach or mentor for somebody who wants to be a closure programmer or a better Node programmer. That's probably somebody else on the team who has that real background. Because most of your managers probably don't have a lot of Node experience in writing Node firsthand. And finally, there's one more role for them, concierge. To some degree, they should be servicing the team. The team has needs. They need a workstation. They need a database expert. It should be, we call this inverted management. Great managers, people, project managers you've always wanted to work for, tended to do this very, very well. They realize they're working for the teams, not the other way around. So I call that a concierge. And finally, once in a while, it's a power-hungry boss. He just wants the power. That's why he's there. It's not a good thing. Generally, when you're around these sorts of guys, you really want to go find another job. Now, the question is, for a manager, can you find one person in your team, one person in the team, that's the best at all of those? Is it a logical assumption that you're going to find one guy who's going to be the best at all of those? Or may there be a different person that's good at a couple of these things? Maybe there's a different fundamental leader in there. Maybe there's a guy, a better clerk. Maybe there's a guy who can go talk to other development teams more intelligently, with more technical detail, than the quote manager can. And to some degree, as we work in organizations, we have tended to begin to eliminate this and spread these roles back into the team. Yes, a team needs to have some natural leaders, but they can sort of morph that leadership when they need to. And so as we look at these various roles, yes, they're necessary roles to be played, they're important roles for the team, but having a dedicated person who's supposed to be the best at all of these is fiction. Because when he's not the best at all, that's when you have dissatisfaction with the team. When he's not the best coach and mentor and somebody else is, there's friction. When he's not the best fundamental leader, they don't listen to him, they listen to somebody else. Friction. Only because we decided from the outside world, he is the manager. I just looked at a spec from another part of the mail business I'm in, and it was somebody who is, by the way, a great manager, and he's also an expert in some new technology. Because they haven't got an expert in that technology. So we're going to write a spec that has all those manager things, and he's going to be the best in this technology. And I'm like, you're not going to find this guy. Why would you look for somebody like this? You're holding up the rest of the organization because you're looking for this superstar who's not a great manager, but he's also a tech wizard in this brand new technology. Not going to happen. So, that's why I'm down to two roles. Customers and developers. And developers need to assume those other responsibilities, sometimes in concert with the customer. Somebody needs to be able to talk to the customer, ambassador role, talk to other teams, ambassador role. Programmers definitely need some coaching and mentoring in careers about how to grow that. Find it within your team, find it with perhaps another team that's just coaching and mentoring. Leadership, definitely required skill, but it should be developed from within. To some degree, this model is actually also similar to described someone in a book called The Invisible Hook, which is a book about the social organization of pirates. Pirates did not have a rule book. There wasn't some government saying, okay, pirate, you're going to be the captain, and you're going to be the first mate, and you're the second mate, and you're going to go climb the ropes on the third shift. They didn't have that. Instead, what they had was they organized themselves according to their needs. They're trying to get the ship from point A to point B. There was this guy who was good at organization, motivating people to go do what they needed to do. And he was the captain for that period. Yeah, when they're attacking this merchant ship over here, they want that big, burly guy who waves sabers, who's completely fearless, who's going to jump across and yell and scream. He is in charge right now. They would morph their organization accordingly. Again, no rules. And to some degree, that's what we're doing here. We've developed this nice team of people saying, there's a problem, go solve it, organize yourselves. So there's been names for this, other names, developer-driven development, which is obviously somebody trying to write a book. To some degree, it actually, of course, this, especially with Node, you can see this a bit in the open source business model. Like, okay, where is the project manager associated with each of these projects, open source projects? And where's the QA and the tester? And who's the customer and who's the stakeholder? Where's the story list? And to some degree, this group organizes themselves. If they need some of these things, they put them in place. If they don't need them, they drop them. They morph it all the time. I choose to call this program Anarchy. Because Anarchy in its traditional definition means the organization of the group is not imposed from the outside. It comes from the inside. It's not the Anarchy definition that says everybody does their own thing. People want to have social organizations. We're social creatures. But the best people to figure out how to do something is the team themselves, not somebody from the outside pointing in to do it. Because even assuming he gets it right the first time, he's not going to know when it's time to change. He's going to be the last guy to know when it's time to change. These guys will know the change themselves. Why did I say anarchy? Well, it's kind of, we used to use the word empowerment a lot. I'm not a big fan of empowerment. It was used on me for decades. It kind of was one way to say, oh, by the way, you're empowered, which is some artificial boundary somewhere. Not sure where they set it, because it's always an uncertainty, that I'm allowed to do something. What they're really looking for is who should they blame when it goes wrong. And so when somebody says you're empowered, I'm like, whoa, dude, stop. You want to blame me for something? Okay, let's have a different conversation. Anarchy is this concept that nobody asked. We got people permission, they're gone. But there's a side effect of that. It says if you and I disagree what we want to do, how can I make him change? There's nobody I can go to that says, make him do it my way. So we're going to disagree. And one of the things we've accepted in Anarchy is we will disagree, and it's okay. We do not have to resolve that disagreement. In most cases, we'll just say, hell, you write it your way, I'll write it my way. You want to use Node? Fine. I'm going to use Clojure. Let's see what happens. And we see what happens. So we don't kind of wave our hands and yell at each other and try to find some CTO to settle this. We just expect disagreements to occur. Now, if you and I truly respect each other, and that's one of the core values of extreme programming, we respect each other. At the end of that, we've had a good time. He may have some bragging rights now because he likes Node and Node kicked my ass, but that's fine. Let's go try the next game. Not empowerment, but this. Expect the disagreements, do not try to resolve them. If you pick somebody to resolve these, you've now put the CTO in place. And the whole thing will start crumbling around you. All right. My previous company, the results of Anarchy and the result of this trust is we established this trust with our clients. We asked our customers, our stakeholders, to trust us at a very, very high level. But we fed that trust by continuously delivering to them to give them an idea of what's going on. It's easy to say, ask to trust me if I continually deliver results. So those of you in the business of sort of asking for that higher level of trust, if you start delivering quickly, the trust will be maintained. And in forward, we push this very, very hard. We wanted our cycle times to be very, very short. And of course, the anarchists within Forward have their own website. This is their website. They publish a lot of stuff about videos they do. They have internal conferences. One of the things they track through GitHub is they actually track how much code has been shipped by the developers by just pulling the GitHub stats. So I think once a day they pull the GitHub stats and publish it back on their homepage. So I think I pulled this out about a week or two ago. In 7 days, 58 developers made over 1,000 commits, resulting in 357 deploys. Which means on average we're pushing, by deploy we mean to a live system, not just a test system, a really live running customer-facing system. Which means basically we're deploying about once every 8 minutes into live environments. That's easy to establish trust when you're just basically feeding the customer continual improvements to your system. If there's something you don't understand, he will recognize that quickly. We'll have a conversation. You have engaged him into a continuing conversation. There was a lovely presentation at Agile India a few weeks ago. I think it was the chief scientist of Valtech, I forget his name. But he made the point that says, when you're doing negotiation between stakeholders and programmers, during that during trying to figure out to that point where you decide you're going to go into a contract and make commitments, before that point,